Hey everybody, Bart Barker again with Wilson County Schools. Hope that you are having a good day despite the circumstances. We are, as a district, in the midst of unprecedented circumstances. Coronavirus concerns that exist now. The recovery from the storm just over 2 weeks ago, a lot is going on. And that certainly means a lot of questions, a lot of commonly asked questions are coming into our district. With that being the case, what we wanted to do today, we just wanted to kind of dive into some of those commonly asked questions to provide reassurance and to let you know where we are today as a district and what is possibly the case moving forward. A lot of unknowns at this time is, again, we are in the midst of a worldwide pandemic. But again, I sat down with Director of Schools, Dr. Donna Wright, a little bit earlier today. Here's what she had to offer on some of those commonly asked questions involving our district. Take a look. Dr. Wright, 2 weeks have passed. Tornado just over 2 weeks ago, followed with a worldwide pandemic. There's really no place in a superintendent handbook to say when you deal with a natural disaster and a worldwide pandemic, here's what you do. There's procedures in place, but how has this been for you?
Well, it's been interesting, even though you mentioned it's been 2 weeks, it seems like it's been 2 months, maybe a year. I have never, in my experience in 40 years in education, seen anything what we have experienced, not just here in Wilson County, but really across the nation. There are no guidelines, there are no protocols. Much of it you have to work with the heart and the mind together to make sure you're making not only the right decisions, but decisions that will not have unintended consequences. And so much of it has been, trying to do what is in the best interest, not only of our students, but also our families and our staff. And so it, first and foremost, as I keep reminding people that, there's concerns about academics and instruction. Right now it's health, safety, and well-being. And that's been the North Star for the last 2 weeks, making sure that we are not only providing assistance, but also making sure that we're caring for people. And that might not be what some people see as the highest priority, but right now it is. We have to care for each other. A
lot of questions. You've seen a lot of questions come in, and I think the thing is, I think a lot of people don't realize that a lot of questions really can't be answered until, right now we're in a ripple and domino effect. Can you kind of explain to folks out there what kind of communication that you're having with state leaders during this time? Because really a lot of information, a lot of instruction is coming from them. So talk about that line of communication and really what's happening as you know it today.
Well, and Bart, that's a really good question, simply because, again, we're only talking about 2 weeks out from when all this occurred, and no one could have even forecasted. Going back to March the 2nd, Monday, very normal day.
The next day, everything's changed.
The world is literally turned upside down. And so, one of those things that even though the questions were coming within really 12 to 14 hours after the event, and I'm referring to the tornadoes and the devastation across this county, what would be the plan? What were we going to do about school? And not to say that it wasn't first and foremost, but at the time we had to do a really quick assessment to see where we stood. And what happened, that after we looked at not only the casualties, the buildings were important, but the biggest and the most significant issue we were facing as far as where we stand as far as not only our students, but our faculty, and looking across the county, because it was something, it wasn't focused just on the school system, but the impact was district or countywide. And so much was transpiring, but also in the behind the scenes, what kind of relief were we going to get? Because again, I was already thinking in terms that, okay, we have a natural disaster. Anyone not watching the news, seeing what was happening with COVID-19 as it started not only elevating, but escalating across the country, that, what else could possibly happen that we would have to make a decision. So much of the conversation, particularly with not only State Department of Education, but also our legislators, as far as what do we need to plan for, what do we need to anticipate, what do we need to make sure that we are looking at in anticipation of where we need to be a week from now, 2 weeks from now, because no one could even begin to forecast. No one could forecast where we would be today. And again, everyone, it's not about sort of working in the dark. It was a matter, we've never had a situation like this.
Right.
Ever.
And I think another thing people need to realize too is that we're not on really anybody's clock other than this pandemic getting to a place where the curve is turned and the downhill swing, and then many national health leaders, state health leaders, state governments say, okay, we're going to give you the option to go back and those sorts of things. So people are asking about when, and unfortunately, I don't know that that's a question we can answer right now.
No, and even when you're looking at, those leaders that are far above me, trying to give reassurances right now because they don't know. There is nothing out there. There is no handbook. There is no manual. We have protocols for disasters. We have protocols as far as if there's an event that is going to impact a lot of people. But again, this is so specific to something that, internationally, what are the protocols? Because it's evolving so fast. And even today, I mean, the latest news being all 50 states are now impacted by COVID-19. And, if anything, it's just a time that we need, it's more than just reassurances. People need to follow the protocols.
Yes.
And that's the hardest thing right now because, particularly for a school district, families are really in a difficult situation. We are in a generation during a time that both parents work.
Yes.
And so, they need care for their kids, but they also need to be able to provide for their kids. And we understand that. And we're not in a position to give that assistance. And if there's anything that is probably most significant, particularly for me, is the pain that we're seeing among families. We're trying to get out to make sure that we're providing food. We're trying to make sure that we're providing resources. We are turning parents into teachers, which they're finding to be very uncomfortable right now, and we understand. But the thing is that we have to get through this with not only an understanding, but we have to follow the rules. We're not going to get well. We're not going to get better. It's not going to end until we follow the rules. And
it shortens the curve. It's about getting that curve and
Absolutely.
turning the corner. And if we follow those directions that are given by those health professionals and what's been put out there, then this will, in all intents and purposes, hopefully last sooner or shorter rather than longer. And I think it's where we are right now. If people follow those procedures.
And much of it's, I want to say common sense, but again, many parents are reaching out to us because not only do they want direction and guidance, but they also want to have reassurance that it's going to be okay. It will be okay, but it's not going to be tomorrow.
Right.
This is a long-term situation. There's questions that are coming in as far as what happens to lost instruction. Well, it's one of those things that's something that our children are so resilient, more so than adults. It's not that we've given this one dose. We're hoping that we've built some pretty strong skills, provide some really significant instruction, that this is something that, again, it's like anything else, it has to be practiced. We have to reinforce, but it's not about lost. It's still there, but we're going to have to keep reinforcing it. There's things that we can help parents with that. Second thing that's coming up as far as, are we going to have to go back to school and extend in the summer? We don't know. That's the least of our worries. I know that parents have asked, said, but what if we've got vacations planned? Well, that is also not at the top of the priority list right now. We don't know what tomorrow will look like. We are planning, and some people take issue with this, but it's day by day as things evolve and as things change. Questions that are really coming out right now. Graduation.
Yes.
We will graduate. It might not be on the day, and it might not be at Murphy Center at MTSU, but we will graduate. In fact, we're getting some new guidance coming out of a Senate Bill 2672 that is rapidly moving today with not only goes into effect, if it goes into effect, which I have every assurances that it will, it waives 10 ready testing, because that's been a question. Are we going to have to come back to testing? That was not a high priority for this district. Just wasn't. But a Senate Bill 2672 is making its way through that would waive that. It's waiving 11th grade requirements for like the civics exam. There's a lot of pieces to it. But the big thing that if students are on track and eligible to graduate, they're going to graduate. We're not talking about making them hold on until August, which, again, we don't even know what that might look like. Another big question is coming up, but this is my senior year. What about prom? Well, prom might not be in April. Prom might not be in May. But maybe we have to be really creative, and maybe you have a prom in July or August.
Right.
But the thing is that, again, it's not that it's not significant, and I understand, particularly for seniors, this is that last year. There's a lot of celebration, there's a lot of bright spots, but it's one of those that, again, we have never seen anything that I can tell you in the last 50 years that is as significant an impact as what we are experiencing right now across the nation, not Wilson County, not Tennessee, but across the nation. And we have to look at priorities differently.
As we close out here, the two words that you and I have used a lot is unprecedented circumstances. And when you're talking about that, everything is ever changing day by day. We touched on food service. We are reaching those children. Plans are in place as we go in the next week to do that. For now, what can our parents and what can our students do at home now that can help them get through this? I know an email went out to a lot of our parents today about links and certain things. There's a lot of stuff out there that they can do to get through this and do it in family style because a lot of people are in the same situation. But what advice or recommendations would you give our parents and students during this time?
First, it goes back to reassurances because, again, adults are struggling with what's going on right now. I can't imagine, particularly with young children, but even our teenagers, what does this all mean? And, they're trying to make sense of it. I have 3 young grandchildren, and particularly the oldest, who's 5 years old, pays close attention to what their mom, their dad are saying. And we need to make sure that we're having some really good conversations with our children. Parents, you need to be assuring and reassuring your children as far as that we're going to make through this. This is really, as I say, a historical moment. Makes sense. Second thing, we are putting an abundance of resources out there. There's been questions about, can we do a virtual online schooling or something like that? Well, that would be a fix maybe. However, again, you don't have that equity as far as being able to reach out to everyone at the same time.
Right.
And so that's not a good practice right now. However, the resources that we're placing out there, particularly in core content areas, as well as some fun things, whether you're 5 years old or you're 17 years old, access it. And parents, don't try to replace the teacher. Just be encouraging. I know there's frustration out there as far as you can't get them to stay still and be motivated. Do blocks of time. We don't have students seated all day long for 6.5 to 7 hours. There's blocks of time. Make sure that there's physical activities as far as even if it's marching up and down the hall or whatever it might be. We've even put some things out there as far as yoga for young children. Whatever it might be, make it fun. Make sure there's some laughter in there as well. But the one thing that we sort of fallen back, and it goes back to some old advice, reading is still a skill that needs to be practiced every day. And we're so dependent on not only our electronic devices that sometimes we forget the beauty of just sort of sitting back and reading. For young children, have them read to you, even if they're making up their words as they go through it. That's okay. That's a skill. But in the same sense, it might be a good family gathering as far as to pick a book, read aloud, and again, even older students sometimes like to just close their eyes and have someone read to them. But that would be the thing that I would say right now, that we need to be patient. We need to be calm. There's going to be stress. We're all stressed right now, and some families more so than others. But the thing is, put your arms around your children, take care of them, give reassurances, and reach out to us. Don't sit there and stew on something. Contact us if there's something that we can be of additional help, make connections for you as far as some resources that you might need, because we're all going to have to really stand together, hold hands, and work through this. But it will be okay. I can assure you that.
When it comes to coronavirus concerns, those updates are changing daily, if not hourly. A lot of information, as you know, is coming down from the national and state level. And then it filters down to the district level, and our decisions are based on the information that's provided and vice versa and those sorts of things. So it's a collaborative effort between our district and state leaders. And when new information is provided, we will certainly put that information out there that's beneficial for you to know and to know where we are as a district. Again, it is changing a lot on a daily basis as we learn more about coronavirus and the widespread effects it will continue to have. And then hopefully we can all move past this very, very soon. That certainly remains to be seen when that time frame will be. We'll keep you updated though all the way through. Stay in contact with our district webpage, all our social media pages. Yes, we have an app that you can go download on your smartphone. Just go to the app store that you have and look up Wilson County Schools, and you'll see our logo there, and our app is there for you to download for free, and it will provide you a lot of good announcements and alerts and updates and those sorts of things. So you want to take advantage of that. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Again, I'm Bart Barker with Wilson County Schools.